Welcome to That Moto Show with Dirt Bike TV's Jay Clark and producer Donnie Bales.
21, it's here. Pretty excited about 21?
Yeah, I you know what? We kind of say this all along, but then I was just counting. We've been doing this for over 10 months.
Yeah. Well, we have a new guest today.
Yeah.
So surprise guest, a little bit different. I shot it just the other day on location at Blackmore Ranch.
Yeah.
We were out there shooting. So I'm going to bring that guest in. That's Chris Keefer. We're going to have him on the show here in just a few minutes. We're going to paste that in here through the magic of all of Donnie's goodness, right?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. And then the big news is this right here. Right here. And then right behind your head.
Yeah.
We got these, finally, for years, everybody's asked me to make some merch, right?
Yeah.
Problem is, it's not so simple because I don't sell anything. I don't have like a store. So it's difficult. And then I have to go create a store, and do things and then taxes and this and that. So I just didn't want to deal with it all. So luckily, DecalWorks, Nick helped me design this thing at DecalWorks. He's the one that came up with the design back when we were doing the FMF thing. We came up with some ideas and came up with a cool looking shirt, and the shirt is sold through DecalWorks. And what's cool is our 20% discount works on it, so that's pretty cool.
Nice.
So it ends up being like $20 or something. I don't know how much to charge on shipping, but if you worked it into your graphics, then it'd be, or you got some numbers at the same time.
It's, as they say, baked into the cake.
Baked into the cake. All right. So DecalWorks is where you can go to get the shirt, all that. So 21, I think for 21, I think of Anderson right now because he's been 21 for a while.
For sure.
Top 450 guy.
And as we were talking right before we started, I really like his representation of the sport. I like who he is. When he doesn't like something, he says it. And so I think he really, I'd say, carry that number 21 really well.
Yeah. Matasevich, I remember him on the Yamaha.
Yeah, my buddy Steve Lamson.
Yeah.
He wrote it. And then I saw a few others that I didn't remember writing it.
Well, you shouldn't be looking up. You're supposed to just do it off of memory.
I know, but I decided to look it up a little bit because I'm like, how many people have, I don't remember the previous 21 before, but Tortelli wrote it. Tortelli had it. And I did remember that one.
Yeah,
I didn't have
on
to
that
look
the Nasty Frame bike.
on the Nasty Frame bike. Yeah.
So
he did that. He rode well on that bike.
He was pretty good outdoor rider.
He was pretty good outdoors,
if he could survive Supercross.
You remember, he gave Ricky some fits here and there for sure.
So the big news as of late has been this SMX.
Yeah.
This will come out after the last round, unfortunately. But the first two rounds, incredible racing. But they've taken some dudes out.
It's cleaned some dudes out. And
like a lot. Like the percentage is way higher than Supercross or Motocross.
Yeah.
Motocross has less guys get injured every week. Supercross has higher. SMX is like up here.
Yeah.
Like next level, dudes getting like carted off.
Well, I think the tracks, I like it and I love racing, but I think they're a little too fast. I mean, they are the fastest tracks I've ever seen.
Yeah, maybe for that kind of stuff. And then everybody's complaining about the suspension and this and that. I think if the guys, now the bikes are a lot different and taller and make more power and all that, but the guys in the 80s wouldn't have complained, right? Like it's just, that's what you were racing.
They had that, remember? Superbikers.
Right.
Remember Superbikers?
All different stuff. And then even Supercross had, it was just a lot different.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was great. Deegan just looked awesome in the 250s, and 450s had some pretty good racing, but it's a pretty sketchy tracks. And then the dirt at Dallas was not good. I don't think Vegas is going to be any better.
With both blue groove. Remember every Supercross when it was in San Boy was always blue groove.
It's going to be tough. So I love the idea of SMX because I enjoy seeing more races, and I think the riders want less. They're all complaining about that, I don't see that happening because
I don't care about the riders. I only care about wanting to see racing.
Right. So
forget about what do they matter?
Well. Yeah. So anyway, and the reason they're getting those big money payouts for all the guys and privateers is because they have all that support. So
that's the one really, really good thing about it is that the privateers they're getting a decent payday.
Yeah, some are getting 20 grand, 50 grand. I mean, it depends on where you're at, but so that part's kind of cool. So
how about that Dino has had to go last chance qualify? I mean, he has to do one. I mean, he made it into the two others.
Yeah.
So
it's been pretty tough.
Yeah.
So anyway, so our show this week, Let's start off with a couple questions, maybe some comments. Let's start off with that. You got some questions for us. I think we got one we didn't get to last week.
Yeah, I kind of halfway put it in, I guess. I don't know.
But we didn't get a measure. That was the problem.
We didn't get a measure.
Yeah, what was his name?
Wyatt C. He wanted to know what size good engine stand to make with the leftover 2x4s would be just for big bikes. Thanks.
Okay, so we got one right here, which, Donnie, you should probably take a photo of that to paste in the show so we're close
We'll do
up.
that.
So we have an engine sitting on one. This is a 350 KTM.
Is that my stand that you brought for me?
Yes.
All right, perfect.
This stand and this stand that I have up here, this one's really old. This one's like over 30 years old. This one over 2-stroke engines. So I would say for a 4-stroke engine, if you know you're mainly just working on 4-strokes, I would probably go bigger than what I'm going to tell you right now by about an inch one way, maybe 2 inches the other way. That's what I would probably do. So you just use 2x4s. Very simple. Even I could do it. And I made this one, 30 years ago, and it's still held together. So I'm at 13 inches lengthwise, like that, and about 10 inches this way. That's it. So it's that simple. 10 inches by 13. And that means your pieces of wood, this one's obviously 10, and this inside one is 10. Hey, so they're all 10 inches, Donnie.
10 inches.
10 inches. So that if you make 4 10-inch pieces,
4 10-inch pieces.
it makes it
12 by 10.
not a square. You would
Right.
think it would be a square, but it's not. It's a rectangle. So if you were to then I would make it a little bit bigger if you're going to be doing 4. And if you think about it, really, because it's pretty inexpensive, you can make 2 at one time. You can make a 4-stroke one and a 2-stroke one. If you're going to be doing some engines or having them on the bench to work on, that'd be a cheap, easy way to get going. So,
Okay, wait a second though. Here, hold on. Do you remember making that? And do you remember what you made it for?
Yeah, I was probably doing RM 250, like in 90 range.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
About somewhere in the 90, 91, 92
Yeah,
in
yeah.
there.
Oh, crazy.
So anyway, yeah, pretty cool.
You don't ever want to get any fire near that thing. It would go up in flames.
Yeah, when I have the torch on there, it's what some of the oil and burn marks are.
Yeah.
So anyway, before that, we would just usually leave blocks of wood on the bench and just kind of work on it there.
Yeah.
So luckily, I don't have to do very many engines anymore. I usually have Brad do them. And
Yeah, what's nice about that is you can offset the engine, whatever you're trying to take apart or whatever, and it's not affixed to a fixture.
And there are fancy engines where the guys that they when they're timing and dealing with current 4-stroke engines, and they're going to be on there for a while, setting it up, putting piston and valves in. It is nice to be on those nice, steel, aluminum stands that you can rotate and turn. That's all fine and dandy, but those are pretty expensive. And the Helio has a lesser expensive one than the Metaltech ones, so that's a good option.
Right.
Hey, before I forget, you got some advertising going on
I got
on your
advertising
bench.
right here.
What's going on here with this? Did this guy pay you?
Listen to me. This is GL's sandwich shop. He's
Okay.
owned it for, I don't know, I think 8 months or
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
And, I get sandwiches there every now and then.
Right.
So Benny's Subs in Marietta, it's literally, I'm not just saying it, it really is the best sub here. So if you're in Marietta, check out Benny's Subs. It's
I
really,
used to go there before he owned it.
you go in there and there's like all kinds of autographs on the wall of different riders, Moto guys, and
memorabilia. Because
Yeah.
I think in Marietta there wasn't a lot of kind of places like that.
Yeah.
So then a lot of them would go there for
Yeah.
the sandwiches. So he bought that. That's Grant Langston. He also has Langston's Motorsports.
Yeah.
We got your dual sport behind us, which we're going to be shooting soon, which
Yep.
is a really cool build. It's a 24 500 EXC. We've talked about that with the ECU. We have a part to add on.
Yeah,
Did we
it's
talk-
back there on the bench.
Is it back there? Let me grab that.
Yeah,
part
yeah.
real quick. So this is.
We forgot this during the initial build.
Well, I didn't have one.
Right.
It was the biggest problem.
I didn't know it existed.
So this is the exhaust flange for the 450 500 KTMs. And you're like, well, why would it? The stock one is like more of an egg shaped. This thing totally opens up the exhaust on these bikes. So this is a really cool, easy, cheap mod for your 450 or 500 if you want more power out of it. I wouldn't probably even worry about doing it to a 450 SXF unless you really want more power. But for a dual sport, totally fine. You can use that more power and it just opens it up. It's weird that KTM is still selling the bikes with their blocked off one. So it's kind of strange.
And where do you get that at?
Oh, Twisted. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries.
Twisted Development. Good job on catching that. This is actually a used one he pulled off. So we got that to put on Donnie's.
Would you put it on a 350 or 250?
No, they have a different size.
Different size.
So it's only 450, 500.
But you could put the 250 header on the 350.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Totally
Okay.
different. Yeah.
So, yeah,
but,
just
the, but
like,
the 450, 500 engine's different, and the way their exhaust shape comes out, it's like more like this.
yeah.
And on the flange, but the part coming out of the head's round, so this matches up perfectly to it.
Yeah.
Instead of being choked down.
Right.
So for some reason it's choked down. That's a really cheap, easy mod. Most of the guys in the inside all know about that.
They all know.
Yeah. So they're getting it.
Do the factory bikes have something similar?
I would have to assume they have something like that. Yeah.
They're doing that
from KTM. I don't know why they're not doing it, but that's it. So anyway, what else we got?
Okay, we got another. We're gonna do a couple more questions, right?
Well, let's do. I got one. Let's do one comment. How about that?
Let's do a comment.
I got one from Gordon G. He says, I'm a big fan of your content. He watches all of our stuff. He uses our Rocky Mountain link. So that's pretty cool, right? Of Gordon?
Yeah.
Okay. So he uses our link. He's 54, so that's pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
So he's getting up in there. He's with us. He's from the Pacific Northwest, and he just got, a few years ago, he got a 2007 CRF 250X. And we've talked about these bikes before. I like these bikes.
They made them for like 20 years straight.
Yeah, so from 05 to like 17 or 18.
17, yeah.
Same bike.
I think so.
So really good bikes. Really like these bikes. He changed up the springs already. He's using good fuel. He's worried about, or his main concern, he says, my main concern is that we ride long ways away from any service, and I'm worried about reliability. Would you put out some videos on these bikes in the past? It's run great so far. My question is, do you have any insights into reliability of these bikes over the long term, 17 years? Would you be concerned about taking it deep into the woods? Okay, so not really, but I would make sure of a few things, though, a few caveats. Make sure that your battery's good, obviously, that your carburetor's clean, your petcock, all that kind of stuff isn't going to have any problems. Those would be things I would really check on. And then keeping an eye on the valve clearance on those bikes. They can get, the intake valves can get, those valves can get tightened up. So you want to check all the valves on it. But for just trail riding, they will last a long time as long as you don't suck dirt. And then he says, I've only ridden this one, and his buddy has an 06 WR 450, and he's wondering if there's a big difference between his bike and the new bikes that are out there. For slow woods riding, would there be a significant improvement or lack thereof? And he also wanted to know if there was a way to rent or try out bikes. My local dealer did not have any ideas. It sounds like his local dealer's not very helpful, right? Which is common, right? So he might try going into a different dealer, maybe to a KTM dealer, and see if some of their guys are going out. But okay,
KTM does demo stuff, so you can KTM's you can check out their demo days, and you can they go to different tracks.
Yamaha does it as well.
Yamaha does it as well.
And I'll get to the next thing. He says, I just found out your podcast last week. I've listened to 3 episodes so far. Really enjoyed them. Don't worry about how long they are. Winky face. Okay, so just so you know. That's what we're getting. And so my first concept on this is...
When you say, just so you know, are you pointing at me?
Yeah.
Okay.
So he said with this thought on the how it would compare to a newer bike. First thing is, when you're out on the trails, don't be afraid to make friends with people. Like, go up to them and talk to them. Most people, myself, other people, they will let you try their bike out. Especially out in the trail community, if you go, hey, if you see somebody with a nice bike, hey, do you think I could try your bike? Most of them are going to be fine. If you do fall over and scratch it, you're going to need to pay them something for it. But most guys are pretty cool. And the trail community, they usually want... So if you run into somebody in the trail and you see them on a brand newer bike, try it out. But to answer your overall question, the answer is it's not life-changing. It's not like going from a wooden wheel on a wagon to like rubber tires, right? Like It's not drastic. You can accomplish the same thing. Spencer's been riding. He just did last week, and he went out on the 93 RMX.
Saw that again.
Yeah. So we got it jetted good. Funny story about the jetting, which I'll get to. It's a funny story. So, but I'll come right back to that. Remind me, okay? I put jetting on there. So
I'll remind you, but I got a question about this bike.
Okay. So he's out there on a 32-year-old bike. This is a 23-year-old kid, and he's doing everything that his buddy Cole was doing on like a brand new two-stroke. So they had a great time. It was fun to do something different and to suffer. It's like riding a vintage bike on the motocross track.
Yeah.
But for me, I would rather ride something newer because I can. But what I would tell this guy is one of the bikes I would recommend newer bikes would be like this, the one we built in Dirt Bike Magazine, which is the 24 and now 25 TE 300 or 300 XCW from KTM, same-ish
Same
bike.
bike, yep.
A little bit of differences. Those bikes are amazing on what he's talking about with those single track. Smooth and easy to ride, really easy just to cruise around and have a good time. So that's something newer, but of course that's very expensive. It does feel a lot lighter, more nimble, but it's not going to change your life in the sense of if all you can afford is the other one. Because if you sell that X, you only get $2,000 or whatever, or maybe $3,000, I don't know what, somewhere in there, and then you're looking at 10 to buy. So it's a big swing. So I understand that. So that's not for everyone. So real quick on that jetting on that RMX.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I have right here, jetting RMX 250.
we took it to Idaho, and we couldn't get it to run very well at all with the stock jetting that we just played with. It was a waste of time. And then Spencer came home for a while, but we got jetting from JD Jetting up there and got it solved. Well, the seat was off because Moto seat moved out of state. Okay. So they had the seat. So Spencer jetted it with the seat off. Man, it's running good, running great. So what happened when he got the seat back?
He restricted the air.
Right. So he threw the seat back on because he's like, okay, good. I'm going to go tomorrow. And then Travis
Got pretty fat.
yeah, God bless him. He got the seat late on Friday night or whatever it was. It was like a Friday night, relaxed Friday. He puts it on. He calls me, hey, it doesn't even run with the seat on. Like, it's terrible. I'm like, what? For real? So he figured out that on that older bike, the seat just blocks so much. So then it's like obvious, okay, the bike needs to be leaner, obviously. So if you're blocking off that much air, it wants more air. It's running good with the seat off, So I told him a couple of things on the kit. We talked about the kit. We went up to the second clip on the red needle, dropped the main, and I think we leaned out the pilot. I can't remember totally, but we changed it all around, and that's when it ran good for his trail ride. He says it could be a little better, but it was pretty good.
Why not get it more air? Why not cut the air box? Or
that's another possibility. I didn't want to get into that at that time.
Okay. But I mean, overall, wouldn't it be better if you're
Just adding more air?
Adding more air.
Totally possible. I'm not
I got you.
So we're just like, hey, the jetting kit worked pretty good. So, and JD Jetting, they get a good and a bad rap. A lot of guys just love them because they get it. A lot of guys complain because they're paying so much just for a needle, basically. But
Right.
that needle's engineered and come with some instructions. And so far, we've never really had a bike that didn't jet pretty quickly with their kit. So I would have to say it's pretty good.
So, what are your plans for that RMX? Are you gonna?
We're gonna hit the nationals.
You're gonna hit the nationals.
National.
All right.
And I'm gonna go pro.
Pro?
No, okay. So we have no plans yet. I don't know, man. It's like, but Spencer likes it. He thinks it's kind of fun. So we'll see how it goes.
Right.
We did get a Vintco, one of our sponsors here, has a clutch for it. Spencer's thinking the clutch. I'm sure it's a stock clutch. So they have a clutch for it. So we're gonna put that in. And I ordered a Wiseco, a piston. And so we're gonna check that out because it doesn't seem like it has a ton of compression, but I think it's also fairly low compression motor. So we're gonna check those out.
I'm just saying, like, besides the carburetor, how close to a modern bike could you get that bike? Would it be?
No, I don't think it's gonna be like what this.
But that 300 is.
Right.
It's not going to be there.
No, I think suspension and chassis is not going to be there. The motor is definitely not as strong as the current bike and not as much torque. So it does have a flywheel. So
I remember
it's not as
Rodney
racy.
Smith racing that bike.
Yeah, they did great. And those guys could race motocross bikes. They could
Yeah.
race full on RM250s.
Yeah, but they rode those a lot.
The RMXs,
Yeah.
yeah. So really fun bike. And so we're going to change the piston and clutch out when I'm up there next.
Yeah.
Maybe next month.
So then you're going to do like
We'll do a full build. Yeah, we'll do something with it. We
You will.
should. Yeah, yeah.
But I was thinking like budget build. You already
Yeah.
have it. That
Yeah,
way.
so we're kind of going to work our way there.
figure out what you're going to do. All right.
So fun bike, everybody's kind of liking that. We'll have to post a picture in here or two with the RMX.
yeah. How clean that bike was is that's almost a miracle.
Yeah, it's too bad it sat outside for a bit, but it didn't get much time on it. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
All right.
so we're ready to let's head to our interview with.
Let me tell you first.
Yeah.
I think that. I really believe that Keefer is one of the most genuine people I've literally ever met in this sport. The guy is the nicest guy.
Well, that's what I find. Yeah, I was
Okay.
with him yesterday, actually, at Glen Helen. So he's a pretty cool dude. He's really nice to just about everybody that comes by.
Yep.
So, he's pretty good, and he's made himself a good niche in this whole testing community. And he tests for a lot of different companies, tests for different OEMs, and he tests for aftermarket companies. So we'll get into a lot of that in this conversation we have. And I say this in there, but his content tends to be a little bit more current bike race focused, not fixing up your 5 or 10 or 15-year-old bike, right?
Yep.
So hopefully you guys enjoy it. I think you will. So check it out right now. All right, Jay here. We are with Chris Keefer, Keefer Inc. Testing.
Yes, sir.
Established, it's the years on my sweatshirt, was it?
2009 is when I actually made it, but it's in effect since, what, 99?
Right.
So
you've been doing it for a long time.
official.
So we're going to visit with Chris, and my whole content is more of a tech podcast.
Yep.
Okay, tech deal. Chris does a really good job of. There's not many people that don't know. If they want to know about Chris, they just go listen to your stuff.
Right.
You can find out anything and everything.
Maybe too much.
Too much. So some stuff I have to stop and turn off.
Yes, of course.
Okay. But you guys do a good job of recapping the last couple years, your guys' Loretta's adventures.
Yep.
The cost associated with it, all those types of things.
Yep.
So there's lots of things there that you go over. And we're at Blackmore Ranch, by the way, just for
We got
giving Jeff
puppies, we got old bikes, we got cool cars, we got all kinds of cool things.
And so Chris and I have shot a lot of bikes over the years, even before Racer X. You know, Dirt Rider days, we've shot cool bikes over the years. And this is a CR250 that we just shot with Racer X, so really cool bike. And those who have been following us know we've been building a bunch of these, and it's just awesome to kind of be done with them. So Chris has lots of content on his sites. Tell us about where to go view all your stuff.
So like you said, I was at Dirt Rider for over 13 years. I wanted to kind of leave the sales side of the magazine because I felt like the sales and the edit side maybe worked too closely together, and I don't know, I was just more of a test rider than a sales guy, right? So I started KeeferIncTesting.com in 2017, and basically I threw up all of my tests on there, and then I obviously went to work for Racer X after Ping left, and so help Racer X online out, as well as, of course, Steve Mathis has Pulp MX. We have the show. I do some stuff over there. So there's like 3 outlets I'm dedicated to, and each outlet's a little bit different. Racer X, we do a lot of video side. My side is a podcast and a lot of articles, and then Steve's side is more of the lifestyle, fun stuff on that side. So I feel like we encompass a lot of different things, and one thing's for certain, you ride and I love dirt bikes, and that's basically the lifestyle.
Yeah. So one of the cool things you do is, especially if a guy has a brand new, say 23, 24, 25 bike, and it's a bike that you guys are using a lot, then you'll have a lot of tips and tricks throughout the year for that bike. Yeah. And so that's really cool, like a KX250, KX450 or a YZ450. So that's one of the things he does is on these current bikes will kind of babysit guys, and you get a lot of guys writing you tech questions like I do. I even forward you some of the ones that are a few of the guys that are specific to something I think you'll know about, like if it's a Yamaha 450 guy or whatever.
So yeah, for me, like just to go off of that, like my mom was disabled since I was real little, so I had this nature of like trying to take care of her, and after my mom passed away, I felt like if I wasn't around dirt bikes, I would be in some kind of caretaker position because I enjoyed that kind of work and fulfillment that it gave me. So I kind of rolled that over into my business where, like, you can actually talk to me, you can email me if you have questions. I'm just not going to throw out an article or video and then now you're on your own. So I've kind of changed the way, hopefully, media testing works, where we're not just out here in video land. You could actually talk to me, and hopefully if you have some questions, I can help you answer them, and then maybe not spend so much money, because the sport is expensive.
Right. And one of the funniest stories that you told.
Yeah.
Just like,
there's a lot of them.
There's a lot, but one of the cleanest, funnest stories.
Okay.
Is when you were young. I think if your dad was working or what, but your mom was home, and she was in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
You wheeled her outside, and got her propped up somewhere to watch you rip starts.
Yeah. So we had. So my dad worked what we call down the hill, which is like an hour away. I live up in the high desert, so he drove to LA every day, and of course, I'm a young kid riding dirt bikes, and I really wanted to be like Danny Hamill, Dan Smith. I wanted to be a hare and hound guy, right? So I was racing District 37, and my mom was disabled, so I'd get her in the wheelchair, I'd wheel her out. My dad had this gravel pile that he was supposed to have like a gravel driveway, but he never did anything with it for years. So of course I used it for jumps, bicycles, and so I ended up, my mom couldn't see me, but in off-road racing, especially if you're on the West Coast, you know they have a banner for starts, and then the mass start, the banner drops, and then you go. So I propped my mom up, got her finagled up on this huge rock pile, gave her, like a towel, and I was 100 yards down the way, and then I would practice starts, and people would drive by, and it wasn't a busy street, but so they would see this strange lady in a wheelchair up on this gravel pile, and there was no one around her. They would be like, "Ma'am, are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, just keep it moving. We're just doing starts." And they're like, "What is going on over there?" It's crazy.
Just sounds like a typical day.
It's a high desert thing.
In the high desert.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So nothing to see here.
Nothing to see here. Just keep it moving.
Right.
Nothing but clean fun.
Yeah. So anyway, and then as far as racing goes, the last, it seems like 4 or 5 years, you've gotten a little bit more serious about racing yourself, like in the vet class, and having more fun with it, working, because it seemed like you were testing and doing all this stuff, and then you're like, hey, I'm riding a lot. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it seemed like you're like, hey, I'm going pretty good. So I should go race.
Yeah, honestly, I think I owe that to my kid, because I have Aiden, he's 18 years old, and he was racing more, and I was taking him racing. And of course, I'm riding and testing all week, and then you ride 3 to 4 days a week, and you want to race on Sunday. It's, when you're doing it on your own, you're like, I don't really want to do that.
Right.
But if I'm going to the track to take my kid, I'm the type of guy, I can't sit still, so I'm going to race too. So that ended up, me and him were traveling all over racing together.
Yeah. So it's cool to see you got back into racing, and you've had some incredible battles over the last 5 plus years or whatever, at the Vet World Championships and Loretta's and stuff. So that's been really cool.
Yeah, it's been a fun time, especially sharing it with your kid, racing guys like, Mike Brown, Shorty, all these guys that come over to do vet nationals. And yeah, it's almost like a resurgence of my professional career, which wasn't much. I think it lasted only 2 or 3 years, but I feel like I'm better now than I was when I was in my 20s.
Yeah, no, and I can attest to that. I mean, because you raced against some factory ex-pros.
Yeah.
And now a lot of them took some time off.
Correct.
A lot of them took 5-10 years off.
Yes.
But still, they're come back and they're like, crap, man, they used to smoke you.
Yes.
And now they can't stay with you. And so it's a little depressing for them.
I bet. Yeah, and it's rewarding for me, because
Right.
I was never as good as those guys. Like Travis Preston won a championship, and I beat him at Vet National. He doesn't like that.
No.
He hates that. But for me, I kept riding.
Right.
And I'm sure if those guys trained for 2 months, they would kick my butt. But they come off the couch, they ride their dirt bike, and they come out and race, and I've been riding, so it's a little bit tough on them.
All right, so Chris, one of the things I want to talk about, it's just come to my mind as we started talking about racing. I want to get onto the tech stuff.
Okay.
But before we do, one of my problems with our sport.
Yes.
Only
one?
Well, I want to ban injuries.
Okay, yeah.
I want to come up with a way to do that, because as you get older, that's your biggest fear, right? And
Yep.
it sucks, and it's part of it. And I've had more than my share. But as I say that, it could be a whole lot worse, right?
Yes.
I still got to ride a lot, but I've had some tough ones, and it sucks. But anyway, what I want to talk about is the families, and you've seen it at the big amateur level that are all chasing the dream, right? The problem is, in our sport, I like to be, my thing, people know I call it a dream crusher.
Yeah.
I'm a dream crusher.
Okay.
Okay, so when guys write me and they want to get a job in the industry or whatever,
Yeah.
I'm like, hey,
Slow down.
pump the brakes. Dude.
Okay.
You want to make a living, living in SoCal is not so great.
Right.
For money-wise. I'm saying this as I do it, right? But
Right.
I've been very blessed and lucky in many ways to be able to carve out this niche like you are. And now, as far as guys making it in racing,
Yeah.
another dream crusher.
Yeah.
It's here's what I equate it to. In the NFL, you're a fan too.
Yep.
Dolphins won.
Dolphins won. We're 1-0.
Yeah.
There
okay.
we go.
Undefeated so far.
Yeah.
Your receiver gets arrested on the way to the game.
Yeah.
It's
Not arrested, just detained.
Detained.
Just detained.
That was rad. Okay, so anyway, every year there's a draft, and 200 or so players are taken, and then there's guys that retire and leave, another 150 or whatever, and there's new guys that come in. Our sport doesn't have that. I would say on the average, it's one guy a year. You get to think about this, that moves up and gets paid. This year it's going to be probably next to nobody. this year. So when I say paid, somebody that's making over $500,000 a year, like to really worth risking your life and being right at this level.
Correct.
So when I say, I'm talking about a guy moving up to the 450 class per se. Now, I mean, you say 250 class, most of the guys aren't really, if you're making $200,000 in a 250 class, let's say, guys think, oh, they made it. No, not for what you're risking, and your future's not guaranteed at all.
Correct. Yep.
Okay, so you get this, right?
Yes.
Like, I'm on the same page. It's like, you don't make it until you got Jason Anderson ride,
Right.
Cooper Webb ride, Tomac,
Yep.
Hunter, Jet, right? All those guys, Chase, those guys are all making it, right? How many guys a year are moving up to that level? And it's as the economy gets tough, it's going to be hard to get those rides. So what I tell people is they all think that their kid is one a year, And if you get a 250 ride this year, there's probably going to be couple that move up. There's even tough room right now to move up a kid that just won at Loretta's to the Kawasaki team, right? Like, There's not a lot of room. So what are your thoughts on how do you get people to be a dream, pump the brakes and go, is this real, how wise is it to chase this dream? I guess is what I'm getting at.
Man, that's such a broad question because I feel like I'm kind of in this right now with Aiden, but Heather and I, we talked to him about like, hey, there is a very, very, very slim chance you're going to be able to retire from dirt bikes. I mean, we have a great friend in Travis Preston.
Right.
He is a Supercross champion.
Yes.
Okay. He was the elite of the elite. He won a championship.
Right.
Factory riders in the peak era of our time where there was money. He has a job right now at Yamaha. So that should tell the kids something out there. Even if you win and you make it and you have some money, which Travis does, you still have to go work.
Right.
So I guess what I would tell the parents out there is what level of making it, quote unquote, is what you're, what is making it to you and your family? Is making it getting to be a main event guy? Is making it just getting to Supercross?
Right.
Is making it making money?
Right.
So there's different ways to say I'm making it. And I think you and I can agree on this. We've made it.
Right.
I mean, I've made it to where I ride dirt bikes, and it created a life for me. Just like you said, you created a niche for yourself, right?
As a lifetime novice rider.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter that I can't.
So I guess there's levels of making it. But yeah, the kids that are coming up and all the families are putting all the money into them, sending them to Club
camps,
MX, training facilities. Like, I understand it, but they also have to know there is a very slim chance for them making it. Like you said, Drew Adams, won Loretta's, barely has a ride from Pro Circuit.
Barely.
There's others I can't think of, but there's so many of them out there that are so good.
Right.
Even if a 10th place guy in a main event, he's elite.
Right.
And he's not making money.
No.
So if you go into it like, hey, I'm going to give it my best, give yourself a window. I'm going to give myself 4 years to see what happens, and then do something else. I think we're seeing more of that nowadays. We're not seeing the guys anymore hanging on for 10 plus years in the privateer class going, I got to get out of here because it's just costing too much.
It's too much money and there's not enough return. So, and
Masterpool is the guy I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Like Ty Mack, he just got a ride from Pro Circuit. How long has it
won
been?
a national, dude.
Yeah.
This year.
So
and it was even questionable, like after he won a national.
It was tough for him to get on the team. So that's what I'm saying. You got to be smart with your decisions.
And I think a lot of the parents, their argument is, hey, other sports, stick and ball sports, they're playing year-round ball, they're travel ball for volleyball, this, what. The difference there is they can make it to a college team, and then college then takes over paying for if they get a scholarship, let's say, for soccer or whatever it is, right? So that's where they take over paying, and you can get an education out of it as well, right, for free if you get a scholarship. So there's a difference. And so in Moto, by you going to club and homeschooling at club or MTF or whatever, right? And I'm not knocking those places. I'm just saying if you're 8-year-old, 10-year-old to 15 spends his time going there, the chance of the return is so...
It's different, right?
Yeah.
So it's funny you said, I brought this up the other day with the family. What we're talking, Aiden's graduated high school.
Yeah.
He's in college right now. It's what we call it, right? So college to us is him going to these amateur nationals. And why do we call it college? Because the people that he meets, it's up to the parents, I feel like, of how their kid's going to be formed in this industry. I look at Aiden and I go, hey man, race your heart out, do what you can, be a good human being, help people out. And it's like a college because it's an audition every day you're out at the track. You never know who you're going to meet. Right. But look in our position. I think you could go back in your career. There has been at least a couple people that have been influential into where you got today. Carl Kramer was the guy that got me started, right? So for Aiden, sure, racing's important, but you're also meeting key people in the industry, right, which could create a life for you still within our industry. So that's what we call the college. Like Aiden's going to college right now because he's going to class every day he goes to the track. He's meeting people. So for me, he still would like to be in the industry. So if he doesn't make it in dirt bikes, then hopefully he can create a relationship with someone else and work in the industry somehow.
And he's learning that being around you and everybody else. It's cool. He just did a Kawasaki commercial, which was awesome. Had to be a really fun experience.
And I look back and I'm like, I remember doing those when I was younger too. Like I did stuff for Honda, and it comes full circle. But you don't get opportunities, and we drive this home. You don't get opportunities if you're not a good person.
Right.
I'm using nice language in your videos.
Well, I call them pukes.
Okay.
The ones that when they pass me and they whip it and then they land in front of me.
Yeah.
But there's zero need for it.
Yeah.
Right. These guys are 40%, 50% faster than me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, they feel like they're owed something because they're fast, right?
And they want to punish me for being in the way. So
you're not as good a rider as me, so you're beneath me,
and you're going to get roosted. Okay,
yes.
But these pukes. Okay,
pukes,
hey, when you called out your Carl Kramer, it got me thinking of. For me, it was Kenny Jones.
Okay,
I met Kenny Jones 32 years ago range.
Yeah,
and he was. I had a few connections, but he helped me and got me a couple connections, and it was that one person I think that really helped pull the trigger to where I met the people at Weisco.
Absolutely.
And then I flew out to Ohio to meet the people at Weisco, and then that's where I got into the industry, and that really helped a ton.
People want to be around people that are positive, that work hard. I don't want to be around a person that's negative. It sucks the life out of me.
Looking back, I think he saw. I'm not. I saw I was a good person and decent person, and not. So he trusted that I wasn't gonna, damage his name, like if he recommended me. So it was cool. And Kenny Jones was an awesome guy, and so it was a great. When I think of, as you said that, I thought about those kind of people.
Not to make this a life show, but literally think about this, I'm not going to be able to go to the 2025 Kawasaki KX250 Intro because I'm going to be somewhere else. Mm-hmm. So I have to think about who I want to use to replace me for that day. And people would think it'd be easy. It's not easy for me because I need to find someone that has a good head on the shoulders, can talk into the camera, can test a bike. I don't need you to be fast, but can do all these things and represent Racer X, Keefer Inc. in a manner that people want to watch, right? People always tell me, oh, I'll help you, Keefer. I'll ride your bikes. But there's more to it than just riding the motorcycles. They don't see all the stuff that goes behind the scenes. So I'm telling you guys out there, if you're a good person and a hard worker, people will see that, especially nowadays, because there's not a lot of that going on.
And Aiden would be going, but he's still recovering.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we wish him the best. All right, so let's get talking about some tech.
Yeah, let's dive into it.
And I want to go over a few things, but first I want to talk about modern bikes. Not this one, but modern bikes.
Yep.
You just did. I haven't watched it yet,
okay,
or listened to it. I'm not sure if it was a watch or a listen. You did a thing on hangers. You just posted.
Yep.
Okay, that's a big buzz.
Yep.
What are your quick thoughts on those for guys that are riding new bikes and stuff? Because here's just so you know, before you say anything.
Okay.
I had this sneaky idea.
Okay.
One day when you're not looking.
Okay.
To go over to your bike and just unbolt one of the hangers.
Sure.
That's what I thought about.
Yeah.
To unbolt it, and then when you come back in, just go, hey,
right,
and see what you said. Hey, was the track good? You're gonna be like,
look, I love blind testing. That's where I come from.
Right.
So for me, when I started this whole testing thing in production with Ed Scheidler at Yamaha, Ed would do blind testing for me all the time. Obviously, he would say, hey, I did something, go ride it, right?
And would you fail sometimes, or?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But he also knew if I didn't feel something, I said I didn't feel anything.
Then it wasn't drastic.
Correct. And then, but yeah, I come from that background, so I challenged a lot of these other Moto Media guys to do a lot of blind testing. Right. Because Moto Media versus production testing are two separate things. So yeah, I like that kind of stuff.
Right.
But as far as the engine hangers go, it's the new rage right now. I think some of the companies are building them in a good manner, and some companies are just using them to make money. I think some bikes need them. Yeah. Some bikes don't.
Some bikes don't. Yeah.
So I like the companies that are not making mounts for every single motorcycle.
Only the bike that needs it.
Correct.
Okay.
So if I feel like it needs it and it helps it, I'll recommend it. If I don't feel anything, I'm like, nah, stock's fine. Save the money. You don't need to do it.
Well, here's what I just did. You can tell me what you think. I just ordered 25 Power Parts hangers for the KTM.
Yep.
That we're going to test on our 350 with like 3 or 4 of us.
Okay.
And do blind, you know.
Yeah, you should. How are you going to do it, though, if they look different? How are you going to, like, do
Well, no, we're not going to tell them. We're going to have them hopefully not tell what's on it. And we can also, I even have the theory of we're going to bolt them up.
Yeah.
And maybe not even have the bolt in the lower one. Go try it. See what happens, like on one side.
So different torque settings?
Yeah, that's what I want to do, too. Because that's another thing. If people just, I've asked some people, what torque do you use? And I'm like, you should have a set torque. On this KTMs, do you know what you guys torque those to?
Yeah, I have them all written down in a Bible.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah.
What range are they? You know?
35 to 45.
That's pounds.
Newton meters.
Newton meters. Okay, so that's a lot. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's like 20 or something. I have to figure that. I don't know that math. Okay, so Newton meters, that's a lot more, a higher number. So yeah, that's good to know. And because you just tightening it, and I noticed they do loosen up.
KTMs do loosen up.
You notice that too?
So I use a little bit of blue on my bolts just because I feel like KTMs vibrate more.
Yeah.
And the bolts seem to back out more on KTMs.
I can't argue with that because the steel frame.
Correct.
Okay.
But it's funny that you say about the torque setting. There's another clamp company out there, which I won't name. He thinks, the engineer of this clamp company thinks torque settings do not matter for the average guy. And he says there's no way and he said this in his blog, that Keefer would not know if I changed torque settings. So I reached out. Said, hey man, anytime you want to do this blind test, I'm here for it.
Right.
Never got an answer back.
Okay.
But it does make a difference.
Right.
Yeah.
I would think so. And I know it does on the KTM, the black, the billet clamps,
Yeah.
the
stock ones.
Yeah, when those are way too loose, first of all.
Yeah.
When they're loose, the forks will actually move with a heavy swap. You can actually get the forks to move.
Yeah.
So we do have to go a little bit tighter, and if you go too tight, you can actually just feel like everything feels really tight.
I think that's a misnomer too on triple clamps, is people thinking, hey, if my bike is too stiff feeling, I can loosen up the bolts on the pinch bolts on the clamps, and it's going to help that. That's not the case. I've been doing stuff for Triumph lately, and we did like a torque setting test within the triple clamps, and I couldn't believe how much better the bike got when we tightened the lower clamp. It was amazing. Like, tighter than I would ever go, and the bike actually tracked better. So it just depends on what the bike does and which bike it is.
Is that bike cast clamps?
Yes.
Yes. And so that's another thing I've been complaining to Chris about is on my KTMs, I wish I had cast clamps.
Well, they did, but now they have billet.
Now they do? Okay.
Yeah.
But I like cast clamps, I think, because all the Japanese bikes that I ride, the Yamaha, the Kawi, the Honda, all have cast clamps.
Yeah.
And I think I like that feel better with rubber mounted. The KTM brand bikes, for some reason, their cast clamps are solid mounted, which just defeats all the purpose of what I'm trying to do.
Well, just also too, like you said about the mounts, the new Rage is new mounts, but also the new Rage is split clamps.
Right.
Everyone's making split clamps, thinking it's going to be better, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, it does for as far as the shape of the split clamp, but also what's underneath for the webbing. The webbing makes a huge difference. Like X-Trig, great clamp, but they haven't evolved their clamp that much per year.
Okay.
Bikes have changed, chassis change. You have to evolve the clamp.
All right, so now I want to shift over to anybody can go listen to your thing on hangers. Is it on YouTube or?
So it's not up yet. We're doing that next week.
Okay,
So I don't know when this will be up, but it'll be up.
It'll probably be up by then.
Okay, there you go.
This will take.
You can go up to my website and we'll have it up there.
Okay, and at YouTube or?
It's actually a written article.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you'll have.
We're still old school sometimes.
Right. I like that. And which bike did you do it on?
KTM.
You're going to do it on the kit, which is great. Okay.
Yeah.
And are you testing those new 25 ones? And are you testing on an old bike?
So we're testing some new mounts on the 25 frame.
Okay.
And we did some on the 24 frame. So
right. That's what I want to do because I have a 24 frame.
Yeah.
And I want to test that 25 one because some guys they're selling out of those things because everybody, first of all, they want to save from having to buy a new bike, right?
Correct.
So then they think if I just buy these new hangers, then I'm halfway there.
It's a Band-Aid.
Right.
Like it does help, but it's not going to help everything.
And for me, I'm curious if I'm going to be able to tell any difference at all.
That's also a great thing too because a lot of these guys, hey, I just like to ride my dirt bike, and I tell those guys, then don't worry about spending money. If you just like to ride your motorcycle, don't listen to me. Just keep living your life. Don't worry about what I'm saying. Just do your thing. But if you are techie and you can feel your way around a motorcycle, then these are the things why we make these podcasts, right?
And I think your content is definitely targeted more towards the current bike rider or racer.
Correct.
You know, he's on a year or newer bike.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we're going to shift to the other guys.
Okay.
Okay. So let's go tech. Let's go back in time to where also you are more. You didn't have the resources you have now.
Yep.
And cost conscious. What are some of the most common questions you get from the regular guys about problems with their bike, or things you see that guys are having that they don't do on their bikes?
Well, first of all, like, none of these guys checks. A lot of these people don't check sag. They don't check tire pressure, things like that, or bleed their spring fork, the air out of their fork. Just common things like that. Like
those are two. So let's just touch on that real quick, because I get that a lot. I get questions asked about suspension. My suspension's not working. I go, "What's your sag set at?"
I don't know.
So that's one of the first things I write them. You know, is what's your sag set at? This and that. Bleeding forks. There's people that don't know they're supposed to bleed forks on air forks as well.
Yes.
You got bleed forks. So all forks can be bled. They'll just build up pressure, and it'll totally affect the way it handles.
Right.
And then tire pressure is huge. I mean,
you would know that, right?
And one of the ways I noticed this is I'll show up at Glen Helen, and a guy's got a flat at 9:30, and I'm going, "Do you check your pressure this morning?"
Yeah.
He goes,
No.
Yeah.
I checked it like 3 days.
He'll go, "Yeah."
Yeah.
So he pauses.
Yeah.
I'm like, "No, you didn't, dude."
Right.
So, and then when's the last time you rode? Like 4 weeks ago. So he's got like 8 PSI.
Yeah.
So that's the only way you get a flat, in the first hour of riding at a track, is because you're too low. So it's a common thing. And then if they have way too much pressure, I say, guys, it affects things adversely as well.
The biggest email that I get and the most is suspension questions.
Yes.
My bike doesn't feel like I want it to, or I want it to do this. And so I always try to tell the guys, look, basics, sag, make sure your clickers are even. You don't got one at 9 and one at 13. I think some of that goes on. Also, some guys don't even know what in or out means.
Right.
I get a lot of like, what are you talking about 14 out? 14 out from what?
Right.
So like that is a common question. So I feel like just taking care of your bike that way helps a lot. And then you got to look at yourself too, Jay. What kind of technique you have.
Right.
If you're not in the right position, it doesn't really matter what you do to your motorcycle. You got to help yourself out a little bit.
I get guys writing me, not I'll ride with, and they're sitting down, they're even more overweight than I am. They're sitting down the entire ride. Well, that bike wasn't designed to be ridden sitting down.
And there's ways to adjust that for the rider, but you got to understand, like, hey, man, a lot of these guys, they send me videos of them riding a portion of the track, which kind of helps me because then I'm like, okay, look, you're pretty good. The technique is okay, so let's do this to your bike. Or like, hey, man, let's scoot up on the seat a little bit. That might give you some more front tire bite, and that may help you. And also, type of tire you have is huge.
Yeah.
What are you running for tires? Like, there's those things that are basic, but so, easy for us, but maybe not for the consumer out there.
Yeah, I get guys, they want magic. And even when you listen, I watched the Nationals all summer, and I'm listening to it. Even those guys are never... we missed our setup, right? We missed our. But that's another thing is, no matter how good a bike or setup you have, like you go to a track like Glen Helen that's rough, I think people have a misconception that if their suspension's done, that they're not going to feel a bump.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Do you get that?
Yeah, a lot. Like a bump is a bump. Like, and I tell people, I'm going to get a kit. I mean, it might be worse. Like those bumps might feel worse because it's not set up, or the tubes are thicker, or whatever.
Right.
So the shaft is bigger. So there's a lot of things that go on. I just did a podcast with Ricky Gilmore from KYB, and we went over a lot of these things about what the consumer can do. He works with factory suspension and what the differences are between production stuff and factory stuff. Is there a lot of difference, A kit to production? So we talked about a lot of that, but most of it comes down to, and that's what I like about our sport, is if you have a newer bike, that bike is plenty capable to do whatever it is that you need to do. It's mostly on the rider.
Yeah.
So
I enjoy, most of the stock bikes are pretty good, to ride them the way they are.
I mean, look, people yell at me all the time, Keefer, you always race a Yamaha. You must work for Yamaha. That's not the case. That's like, I think that bike works the best for how I ride. At least lately, the last few years it has. But I'm a huge fan of the new Kawasaki KX450. I like that bike a lot because it has more front end feel. I'm a front end steering rider, so I need some of that. So it just depends on which bike works the best for me. But yeah, I mean, I guess that's why I try to help people to try to decide what type of rider you are, what terrain you're riding, and then there's a lot of bikes out there that cater to those type of riders and terrain. So
yeah. so far as bike maintenance and talking to people, what's the other big things you get from people that you're talking to at the track or emailing you?
Maintenance for me would just be like, how long should I, in the world of 4-strokes now, top ends, how long should I be my top end? My owner's manual says 12 hours. Should I do a top end? And I'm like, no, just pump the brakes. You don't have to do it unless you're revving the crap out of your bike. Checking your valves, stuff like that. ECUs are a huge topic nowadays because there's really good aftermarket ECUs that can help your motorcycle. So basically, maintenance-wise, it's mostly clutches, top ends, what their owner's manual says versus what real-world time is.
Right. And I get a lot of guys who they buy a bike secondhand, don't know the history of it, and are just like, what do I do? They don't. And I'm like, well, you need to know where you're at. With the bike. And so very common for guys to be buying bikes with anywhere from 20 to 80 hours on them, right? So they don't know what the history is.
I guess you probably would get more of this question than I would, but like people when they're going to go look at a used bike, I get asked, hey, what should I be looking for? Yeah. So for me, and you probably know more about this than me, but I always say go under the bike and look at the bottom of the frame to see what that looks like. Right. And that is a tale of what this bike is going to be like, right?
No, and I actually made a video, and I get a lot of people write me. And one of the things when they write me is I tell them to send me the ad. And one of the downsides of outside of Southern California, the market's really tough. You say you live in Wisconsin or whatever, or Minnesota, a lot of these guys are driving 4 or 5 hours to go pick up a bike. Right. So I say, man, they got to really be careful. And the market out here, out west, there's tons of bikes for sale, and you can get a better deal. So
there's also more used bikes out here as far as used up. You know, so
yes. So I try not to get the old race bikes and all that kind of thing. So
and a title, I guess, would be nice to have.
Big, and just
because there's a difference between a title
and an MSO.
MSO,
certificate of origin, or MSO, manufacturer's certificate of origin.
California's a pain in the butt, right?
It is, and they just changed some rules to where they're not supplying with titles. They're doing MSOs because there's no more green sticker program.
DMV still wants you to come in and show proof of your VIN.
Right.
It's crazy.
It's a total mess.
Yeah.
So anyway, we appreciate it. And do you have any highlights or lowlights from when you were a kid, or mechanical, whether it's triumphs or failures over when you were working on bikes and you had something break or blow up or whatever?
It's funny because honestly, I can't believe I'm admitting this right now. My wife is a better mechanic than I am. It's crazy. Like, she does really good work. I remember the rules were in my house when I grew up, Jay, were my dad would come home, obviously work 2 jobs. He'd come home and we may race on the weekend. Even though I didn't know how to do it, I had to sit out in the garage with him while he was out there and watch him. That was the rule.
I kind of agree, yeah.
That was the rule. I couldn't be in the house.
Right.
He's out working, I'm out with him.
Right.
So I watched most of the time growing up. So
and you weren't on your phone because there was no phone.
No phones.
No, right.
So I wasn't hands-on, but I helped him, right?
Right.
And then as he kind of wasn't around more and I got a little older, I was still on 2-strokes. I remember doing my first top end, and my bike didn't blow up, so I was really excited about that. And I told my dad, he was excited. But for me, when the transition went from 2-stroke to 4-stroke, I still haven't put a whole motor together from a 4-stroke. So that's something I would like to learn and do, just to see how it's built up. But for me, I'm most proud that I can take a full 2-stroke motor apart and put it all back together.
You know what's cool is that Travis and Steve, they learned how to do full engines.
Like when they got hired.
Ex-racers.
Yes.
Like you would think, oh no, and they did. I don't think any of them did it when they were young.
No.
They learned at Yamaha.
Travis didn't work on his bike at all.
Right.
Until he got the job at Yamaha, and now he's an R&D rider, and then he wanted to learn how to do all this stuff.
I think it's so cool.
I think it's helped him.
It's so cool, because then he totally understands everything about a Yamaha engine, obviously. And so when he's out there at tests and stuff, But
I still prefer testing, tinkering than working on bikes. When I'm out in the garage working on bikes, my wife doesn't come out much because she knows I'm probably frustrated, and it's probably not a great time for me to come or her to come out. So
and that's the nice thing about what you're doing. And when you're riding current year bikes, for the most part, you're selling them under how many hours? 50 hours?
Yeah.
So you don't really have to do much other than change the oil, air filter, chain and sprockets,
Yes.
a clutch, tires. You're doing those basic things.
And I think
Brake pads, flushing, all those things. You just don't have to do anything internally on the modern four-strokes. You just don't have to do that much.
for the most part, I feel like if a consumer buys a new bike, if they were changing their oil and their oil filter religiously, I mean, I do it every 2 engine hours,
Right.
like for me. And I use good oil,
Yeah.
and then we can have a debate on good oil,
Right, right.
what's not good oil. But like changing oil constantly all the time,
Yeah.
check my valves, every 10 to 15 hours.
Yeah.
That's it. Like air filter, oil changes, make sure you have good, like you said, chain and sprockets. And I don't think there's a lot of problems with a lot of these new bikes,
Are you guys bleeding brakes much? You guys flush fluid?
You know what? It's funny you say that, because I brought this up to Eddie, because Eddie helps me, and I haven't bled brakes, but lately my front brake on my YZ has been going away when
Yeah.
it's been getting hot, and I'm like, oh man, I got to start bleeding brakes more.
So do you have the air tool?
No, I
Eddie
need that.
has a good one. I talked to him about it. So I have one. I'll send you the link. There's one on Amazon.
An air bleeder?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Makes your life easy.
So you're not cracking a lot.
Well, yeah, you just do a little bit of a process, but I got a pretty good process down. And having fresh fluid in these things, to me, is huge.
People ask me too, .4 or .5?
.4.
.4.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a high temp, and it's like, and I buy it from the automotive store in a metal can. It's like $15 for the bottle. Like,
So do you think there's a difference between us buying a .4 fluid, let's say whatever, Maxima or whatever, versus what comes in these things nowadays? Or is it the same stuff? Because I
the
feel
stock
like
stuff goes pretty quick.
it's crazy, because when I talked to Ricky about production suspension, he talked about oils within the suspension and how it's not quite as good as what we could buy if we went and sent our stuff in somewhere. So it's crazy. So I didn't know if that mattered in the brake world.
Yeah, I've noticed that the stock brake fluid and clutch fluid, if you had KTM, it doesn't last as long as when we flush it out and put good stuff in.
Yeah.
It just seems like the way. So we've had good luck with that. So, all right. So
We can make this thing 2 hours if you wanted to.
Right. Well, we ain't got time for that. But we've done a lot of bike builds together. I don't know. I was thinking about it, but 15 or 20 bike builds over the years, and it's been fun. We just shot this one. It's fun. And we'll be shooting much more. We're getting closer to at least fall, winter time. So we do ride together a little bit in the winter.
Jay likes to poach my tracks that I make, and I have to get Jay to come up to the desert when it's smooth, because he doesn't like riding my rough tracks. So he's very particular about what tracks he rides.
I like freshies. I have this theory of, when you go out wakeboarding or water skiing,
glass.
Yeah, you don't go out at 2:30.
Yes.
When the wind picks up.
Yeah.
You're out there at 8 in the morning when it's smooth.
I'm a both kind of guy. It feels more rewarding for me when I just hammered myself in a rough track.
Yes.
When I'm back at home, like, that was a good day. But I will say this, to Jay's point, there is nothing better, and I'm sure other people back east can relate to this in their own way. When it rains in Southern California, I'm in the high desert, there's two things. You got the smell that has this manzanita kind of wet smell in the trees, and then massive traction that you feel like a hero. You go out and burn new turn tracks in, and that's probably some of the most fun I ever have on dirt bikes, is those days right there.
I can't argue with you. My dream is a smooth Southwick, smooth, with just like me and Spencer.
Yeah, just wall berms everywhere.
Yeah, you could come. But because Southwick, it gets so rough, even though the local races gets rough really quick.
Yeah.
But it would be fun to just have it for the day, and it was just 2 or 3 of you, and you could just...
We talk a lot of trash on California, but that is one thing that we have here, is we have a lot of open land.
Yeah.
And we can make our own tracks.
And people say that there isn't, and so when they say they can't find anything, I'm like, yeah, you're right, it sucks, you can't find anything.
Yeah, don't come. You don't want to ride
you
here.
can't
It's
find
horrible.
any. There's nowhere to ride. We got a new dog here. We got tons of dogs.
Exactly.
All right. So anyway, it's been really fun visiting with you.
Yeah, thank you.
Wish you guys the best. And your back is sore right now. So
Oh yeah, I crashed, and so part of the deal.
a constant thing. So hopefully that heals up quick.
Yep.
And Aiden's healing back. You can't afford to be down too long. So
No, part of the job is riding, right?
this one's fun.
Puppies,
His
yeah.
tongue sticks out. His tongue just stays out.
Who doesn't love a puppy?
Right.
If you don't love dogs, then something's wrong with you.
I noticed, I would think the majority of Moto guys, Moto families, are dog people.
Yeah.
There's a really high percentage. I don't know what it is, but it's pretty high. I come across a lot of dog people in Moto.
My buddy Darkside doesn't like dogs.
Now, see, that's weird.
And I was like, you can't come back to the house anymore. That's it. No more.
That's too bad. Yeah, but he likes rock and dirt bikes. He should like dogs.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Maybe as a kid he was traumatized. So anyway, good times. Enjoy it, and check out Keefer Inc. Testing.
Yep.
We'll see you guys next time.
See ya.
All right, so hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Pretty good time with Chris, and as you can see, that cool looking CR in the back, that's one of the last CRs. So we are going to be selling those bikes eventually.
Yeah.
For those that want to get on a list, we have a couple guys that have wanted to get on a list. Those bikes will all be at the Langston's Bike Show in late October. It's October 26th. It's a Saturday. Last Saturday in
Along
October.
with my KX will be
And
there.
the KX500 will be
Yep.
there. We're going to have them all started up, revving them, blah, 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 making smoke through the whole parking lot.
Yep.
It'll be like this, just full smoky national in there. So it's going to be cool. So
Are you going to run around and start them all, or are you going to have 4 other people there?
I'm going to try to get more people.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they don't really idle.
No, they don't
Ding,
idle.
Ding, 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 ding,
Yeah.
ding, ding.
I can get maybe Riley to go.
Ding,
He'll
ding,
go
yeah,
do-
he could be an idler.
Yeah.
So we'll have, so that's at the bike show, we'll have that. Also, for whatever it's worth, when it goes to this topic of selling bikes, we are going to be selling a 350 SXF. I mentioned that one. And I might sell a 250. It's a gas, but it's a 250 SXF.
Okay.
23.
How many bikes do you own right now?
Yeah, let's not talk about that.
Is that because you don't want everybody to know, or is that because you
Right.
don't want your wife to know?
Yeah, Sarah listens to this. So
Okay.
she sees them all. But
My wife walks out and goes, "Is that a new bike?" And I go, "No, it's the same one I've always had. What are you talking about? They're always orange."
So anyway, we are selling a good 250 at a deal. 350s are, that one's gonna be a little more because it's a newer generation bike. So anyway, just email us if you're into any of that. Remember to send us those questions too. What should we get to next? I say let's get right into our product stuff, right?
Yeah, let's do products.
Okay, so this company is called Grip Edge, and I think I mentioned these guys before, actually.
You have.
But I brought these over for Donnie right here, this little set right here, because these are cool for fixing rounded off bolts. Do you still have that one, or you sold it? The one that needed it?
No, that's my.
The one, okay, the Yamaha.
That's my. I own that Yamaha since new, 91.
Superjet.
Superjet.
So what's crazy about these things, when you look at these, people right away assume they're a Torx, which is easy to do. It's not a Torx. This is for Allen wrenches, hex we'll call them, and it's rounding technology, rounding preventive technology. So if you have a stripped out Allen bolt, hex, you put one of these in there, the same size, and it'll get it out. Or you just use these full time, and you don't ever round them off. So that's another great.
Does it make
option. No
ding or anything in the?
We've been using them on sprockets a bunch. When I change, because we do a
Yeah.
lot of sprockets, and doesn't seem like it might grab a tiny bit more when I pull the bolt out.
Oh, right.
Might get
Yeah.
stuck, but nothing drastic at
You
all.
know what I realized, that I used to think Allens were good, but they're terrible.
Right.
They're terrible.
Especially in the smaller sizes.
Yeah.
So these are great. Great tool to check out. It's been really helpful on that side of things and keep you from rounding off those Allen bolts.
Nice.
Okay, we got some fun things right now. I say let's do a few of those comments. You got your phone over there?
Yeah, I got.
We got some cool comments from the. We did this before with Spencer. We've done this a couple of times. We have the YouTube comments. This one is from a lot of times. Last Life is his name. Dockin' and bikes, like party. So we use a lot of Dockin' because it's really good as a background music. This is on our YouTube comments. And the next one is Dirt Bike TV is the best. That is from Jacob Kinder 4593. That's on our air boot mod on the CR250. So I can't complain about that. What do you got next, Donnie?
Yeah. From Orange KTM Kid.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, riding with Cardos is a game changer, teaching my young boys how to ride.
Yeah, that's awesome because that's the term we use is game changer because it completely changes the mentality and everything about riding. Last year, there was about this time, last October, we went on a big ride and we all had them on.
Yep.
Loved it. Yeah, you and GL and Spencer and
Yep.
Jim. Everybody had them on, and it made just a huge difference in the quality of ride. You're communicating the whole time. Hey, I need help right here, or whatever. Spencer's warning us. So much better.
Left at the next Y. It's
Right.
it's really helpful.
It is huge.
You know what else I like too? I like connecting to my phone and talking on it, or just listening to music.
Right.
It's really cool.
Yeah, so it's pretty awesome. I've done some dual sport rides, and I pop out, and then I have signal, and the phone rings, and it's like, you want to answer? It's
Obviously, I'm doing a big adventure ride next in a couple of weeks,
Right.
right? And I'm really actually looking forward to that and that.
right. You have it on there. That's
Have
gonna
it
be
on
cool.
there. Yep.
All right. What? So next one we have is this one's cool. Chad rides 914 when I'm mixing some two-stroke gas. He says just casually dips his entire hand into the fuel. What kind of superhuman is this? Laughing faces. So I don't know if it's superhuman or stupid human. Is it stupid human?
I don't know, man. I don't do that. I put on
A glove.
gloves like a sissy or something.
Yeah, well, I think I'm probably going to wish I wasn't, tough guy and just did it.
Right.
It's just that I'm busy and I'm so used to doing it. And when I started doing it in my teens and 20s, I didn't know very many people that had cancer.
Right.
Right. So now it's like, now that I've seen it, it's like I should stop. So
Yeah, you might have soaked yourself in carcinogens.
right.
Right. Dan Hopkinson's 2811. Every video this guy makes is painful to watch. Biggest bodger in the sport. I don't know what that means.
I'm thinking he's from like Australia or somewhere. So if one of our viewers can comment on who uses the term bodger, but I'm guessing it's just a
But why
hack.
is it painful to watch? I don't know what
He says I did a bad job. This is on the air. Oh, I've gotten a lot of negative comments on
right.
that.
I know that.
So we drilled out this air box. Okay, so what people don't understand, and it's an this piece is like this big. It's probably about $30.
Right.
Retail from Yamaha.
Right.
Okay. We are testing how much airflow this bike wants when you're on the track. So we drilled it out, got a hot knife and cut it out. It was white plastic, and we weren't going to be using that plastic. It was used.
Right.
So there's not much into it. And what we do is we drill all those holes, and then we'll go out to the track and then test it, and then we'll even put duct tape over those holes to be able to tell, is it better or worse? And then go back and forth,
Right. And if you're doing a project bike, you're not leaving it like that.
No, so I don't care.
Yeah.
So it is kind of fun. It got everybody's goat when I do that. One of the comments that was funny was they said the drill was running backwards.
Oh, right. Because it syncs with the speed of the camera.
Okay. So I'm like, they think I drilled a bunch of the holes. It kind of looks like it's going backwards, but obviously it wouldn't drill.
With the frame rate and the drill have matched up or kind of shifted, and that's why
it looks a little
way.
funny. And I've seen it on some other stuff before.
Have you ever seen on videos where the wheels look like they're going backwards?
Yes.
That's the same thing.
Yeah.
So everybody can calm down a little.
All right. All right. What do we got next here? So this one's from Rusty Restoration WW1, WW2. Nothing like the sweet smell of castor bean oil R50 is good stuff. He's talking about the clots after I started up the 2-strokes, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. What do you got next?
SXM Nice. Thank you 1,000 times for this video. It's the Don't Scratch the Rims Pro Tire Change.
Oh, that's
video.
awesome. So this is Derek James Lynn, Dirt Bike Professor. You're the best.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. So I got to read those nice ones about me.
Wait, there's one about me right here.
Yes. Go for it, Donnie.
Show 20, I'm just seeing these. Donnie is back doing podcast. I was bummed when he left the former podcast, as his knowledge in the sport is fun to hear. Glad to hear he's doing something again. No offense, Jay. Ha. You're great too. I'll be listening, and I'll go back and start listening to the first show now.
Very cool.
So I used to do another podcast.
And this one's a lot easier because it's in your garage.
This is nice. It's my. I did enjoy that other podcast. So that was obviously Whiskey Throttle Show. And I started producing that originally with Ping and GL, and I loved doing it, but it is a lot of work.
Yeah, doing those big shows. Yeah.
Big, long shows, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll keep them under 4 hours for
I
you.
appreciate
All
that.
right. So
I guess that's where I had PTSD, and that's why I'm like, keep the shows short.
right.
Yeah.
So you're not good. You're going to love this. I got a last one for us. You ready?
Okay, go.
This one's from, and I've gotten this before, Rock and Rail, okay? And it was a tire change one, and he says, who else thought Brian Dennehy was changing tires?
Well, first of all, that's a really timely reference. How many people know who Brian Dennehy is?
Right.
Okay, name one movie he was in.
Brian Dennehy, First Blood.
First Blood. That's right. I literally watched it the other day.
He's the cop.
He's the cop. Rambo, First Blood.
Right. And
Tommy Boy. He was the dad in Tommy Boy.
Oh yeah, but in First Blood, the redheaded cop, the younger one.
Yep.
He ended up getting a show.
David Caruso.
Okay. Yeah, he ended up getting a cop show. And
CSI Miami.
And he was all cool.
Yeah,
like he would talk all cool.
That was CSI Miami he had.
Anyway, First Blood. For those that haven't seen it, it's a.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
So that was good. All right.
So the other one I get. So I've gotten that one a couple times.
Okay.
Sarah doesn't see the resemblance at all.
Okay.
But the other one is Jack Black for some reason. I'm like,
I
come
can
on.
see that a little bit.
Oh my gosh, dude. So I'm getting compared to guys that are way fatter than me. That's another problem.
Oh, right.
So I'm fat enough, but then it's like I get compared to guys that are way fatter.
Well, I think
like
you
no one's going, hey, it's like look. This guy, did you think Matt Damon was changing tires?
I think you kind of look like my dog, honestly.
So stop. All right, so that's a pretty good. Oh, so now we're at CD time, right?
Yep, CD time.
Okay, so when I talked to Chris, I forgot to ask him. I wanted to ask him during our interview, but I forgot. We had a lot going on, right?
Yeah.
So I texted him and said, hey, what's your favorite 80s, 90s kind of rock, CD? So I said, I'd talk about a CD. And he said, Queensryche, Operation Mindcrime. And I think we've already done Queensryche, but no problem in doing it again.
Yeah.
Because it's really good. So this album, what
Bands that are this good, there's no problem with doing a repeat album.
91, and I think the next album came out in 91 or early 92. Like it was so quick.
Yep.
So
I think I heard that they had recorded them together or something.
That wouldn't surprise me because I think they came out and I saw them in 91 or 92 with the album after this with the one with Empire and is the album called Empire? What's it? With the one that's got all the hits, Jet City Woman and
I think
Silent
so.
Lucidity.
I don't remember.
Silent Lucidity.
So honestly, I can't remember all.
So
of
this
Queensryche.
album is a concept album. Okay, so it kind of tells a story of these evil people. Kind of relates a lot to today's climate, right? So they're trying to use mind control to get these people to do something, and it's just got a really cool feel to the whole album. I remember now, and he's like remembering like in his past who he was, and it goes through these 15 songs. Eyes of a Stranger's last. That Sweet Sister Mary, is that one on here? That one's really good. Oh yeah. Sweet Sister Mary's number 8, right in the middle. So it builds to this middle section, and there was a video for this whole thing. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
The other thing about Queensryche, I just found the other day
that was Empire 1990.
Empire was
the other one. It was named Empire.
Was 90?
90.
So I was mixed up. This came out after?
Yeah.
Man, I'm totally wrong. Okay, I can't remember that stuff so well. So
Well, that happens.
yes. So now I lost my other chain of thought there. But this
The video you were talking about. The
really
whole video.
cool. Oh, then just the other day I forgot they did an acoustical deal. In the early 90s, there was this whole big fad of doing those acoustical unplugged things like on MTV. And they hit it out of the park. So good. And then yesterday we listened to the Dawkins one, but that's another thing. Cody threw that in because my computer died and we didn't have, so we had to use the CD player.
Back to old school.
So no streaming. So anyway, those acoustic ones were great. And the MTV unplugged with them, it was awesome. And on YouTube, there's this like, this rehearsal video. It's just so cool. Them just all practicing and stuff. So
That's
it's
really
pretty
cool.
rad. So anyway, good CD. If you're going to get into check out some rock, is that Empire album, which I just figured out was right before this, but I was totally confused. And then Operation Mindcrime right after. So very cool. What else we got? You got something else to end us out this show?
Yeah. I mean, this might be a little controversial for you. What is your actual favorite band? And why?
That's so hard. And it's changed a lot over the years.
Sure.
And we haven't brought in the band that I have the most CDs from or was the biggest fan of as a kid. And we're going to talk about some of that reasons when I do talk about that band.
Okay.
But the 4-letter band and money hungry suckers. Okay. Especially the main guy who controls everything. So I've kind of
He doesn't say he's the greatest or anything.
No. So I've kind of fallen away from that band, and now I kind of have a top 3 or 4, and for me it would be kind of Def Leppard, which through the 80s wasn't one of my favorites.
Wait a second, I took you to one of your favorite bands?
Right.
Oh, nice, all right.
So I would say Def Leppard as of late, because what I found is that when you're older, if the music's still, like you want to listen to it, now I liked Bon Jovi, for instance, better than Def Leppard at the time, right?
Sure.
But when I go back and listen to Bon Jovi now, like even their couple popular albums, it's just too poppy, soft, not as much rock, genuine rock. And the earlier stuff, yes, but the stuff that we're so successful with, the Def Leppard, pretty much the whole thing. I mean, it's so good.
Yeah.
Like so much good stuff. Like we were looking at the set list when we went and was like, man, they didn't play this. They didn't play this.
Right.
They didn't play this. Like they could do 40 songs instead of 20.
They could have kept going.
Yeah. You could have 2 nights, and that's what Metallica's done, where they've done 2 nights of no repeat songs. Right. So anyway, I would say Def Leppard, Tesla, Great White, Dawkins, Cinderella with Tom Keefer.
Oh yeah.
Those are my favorite ones. The rest kind of fall in here. There's some great bands, but I will say I still think that era of music is some of the best rock.
Let me
music.
ask you your opinion on, probably one of the most popular bands ever of that era, or a little later, right? Guns N' Roses,
Right. And they're still there. They're down in here for me.
Okay.
I think I liked them more. I think it's a little bit hard. I mean, hard not in the sound, but the lyrics are a little bit tough.
There's some tough lyrics.
They're very much sex, drugs, and rock and roll, right?
Yeah.
Like, and to the excess. Like, Motley Crue chilled out in those lyrics, right?
Yep.
From their early stuff, and look, they got a little bit more radio, let's say, right? With
Right.
each album, right? It got progressively more softer, and the lyrics weren't as
Guns N' Roses, I actually like. Probably Lies is my album I liked better than Welcome to the Jungle.
Yeah, that album's just incredible. Appetite for Destruction, yes.
I mean, Appetite for Destruction.
Right, but has that. It has so many incredible.
I couldn't even think of that.
I was watching something the other day, and when you hear the beginning of Sweet Child of Mine, you get like goosebumps.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it can bring you right back. Like,
right back.
The beginning of that song.
Right back.
Like how he played that, like, how did no one think of that before?
Yeah.
And it's just like, there's nothing else. You can be at a concert. I remember if you're at a concert or an event and they're just playing background music, when that comes on, everybody's like, this is so cool.
Right.
Like, so anyway, that's kind of what I was, where I would think is those bands those musics with Def Leppard, Tesla, Great White, and Dawkins, that rock, it was more rock than pop, and so it still stands the test of time for me.
Yeah. So then let's just one more question for that. Basically, they go, Jay, you can only listen to one album the rest of your life.
That'd be terrible.
It'd be terrible,
right? That'd be hard.
I'd probably pick that. Is it one album that Zeppelin, that when it came out with the box set, it's like, if that one album is like, and then you'd get like 40 songs.
Right, you'd have to get something with more.
Yeah,
for sure.
All right, man, that's all I got.
All right, that's fun. So hopefully you guys enjoy. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that kind of stuff, and send us your questions. Support us with using our links and all that, and listen to the great sponsors coming up. We work with some great companies, and here's a list of those right now. Dunlop Motorcycle Tires, Wiseco Piston, Vinco Air Shocks and Dirt Bike Parts, FMF Exhaust, Decal Works Graphics, Pro X Racing Parts, Recluse Clutch Revolution, Motion Pro Specialty Motorcycle Tools, Works Connection, Uni Filter, Klotz Oil, Cometic Gasket, MX Plastics, JE Pistons, Cardo Systems, ODI Bars and Grips. And remember, if you shop Rocky Mountain, use our link from our site, Linktree, or link in description of the videos. Thanks for watching and listening. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.